During the writing and revising of I Do If It's Equitable, the contents were shared with men and women of various ages, professions, social classes, and education. Single, engaged, married, divorced. Often, in an attempt to strengthen or defeat the I Do philosophy, they would respond with, "What if?" With the I Do philosophy fresh on our minds, let us consider, what if? Greetings, daters of all ages. I'm John F. Whitney, author of the book I Do If It's Equitable, a philosophy for dating and marriage to avoid the potential horrors of divorce. I will be your host and guide as we discuss the I Do philosophy. This is Section 6, Video 4 of 4. What If? Part 4. The red square at the bottom right-hand corner of your screen is a subscribe button. If you feel I am doing a good job, please consider clicking that subscribe button anytime during this video. What if I'm too wrapped up in the passion of the relationship to bother with the I Do philosophy? Passion is a wonderful thing, except when it gets in the way of the truth. Many a terrible marriage can be traced back to a passionate dating experience. That is, if you are only interested in making love, or only focused on the next love-making session, you cannot focus on other important issues. Moreover, you might find yourself expecting a child before marriage, before you completely understand each other, before you are equal to the challenges of a lasting relationship. By all means, preserve the passion. However, passion must never come at the expense of honest and open communication. You must, at some point, talk about issues that can strengthen the relationship or which might threaten it. Put another way, if you begin talking to each other and discover that passion is the only thing the relationship has, you are doomed. You will pay a dear price. For every day of passion now, expect 10 times that in misery later. What if I decide to make my wife a full partner in my business? What's wrong with that? Nothing, if that's what you choose to do. However, there are many questions to answer and issues to address. Does she provide a unique contribution to the business that justifies 50% of it? How long is she able to earn this 50% of your business? While married? After divorce? Is this in lieu of any future divorce settlement? Yours is a generous gift. Oh, excuse me. Is it a gift? Know exactly what you are getting into, lest you find it impossible to get out of. My fiancé and I are about to purchase a house together. The wedding date is not yet set. Is the I Do philosophy of any value to us? The I Do philosophy is designed to help you address and enter into commitment without fear or reservation. However, you are putting the cart before the horse. It has become far too common for engaged couples to rush headlong into the purchase of a house. By all means, the obligation each of you will accept and subsequent equity each of you will earn should be defined. There's no harm in doing so while engaged. But, is the purchase itself something you want or should complete before a legal commitment exists? Living together does not represent a commitment, as it does not carry the same legal expectations and obligations as marriage. Therefore, living together in this house could potentially create many problems if the engagement is broken off. For example, once the marriage is called off, which of you would vacate the house? What if the other person does not uphold their mortgage obligation once you part? How would equity in this property be divided once you part? Logic dictates that you postpone purchase of this house until the marriage actually occurs. If you must purchase this house before marriage, be sure there is a written understanding that defines obligations and options should the engagement end. Yes, that means contract. likely separate from an I do contract, but which could be incorporated into an I do contract at some future date. Complications such as these can be avoided if you simply do not put the cart before the horse. While they were dating, my son and his future wife treated each other wonderfully. Now that they are married, my son treats her like gold, but she treats him like dirt. What can I do? Nothing. Without information, it is impossible to determine why this change occurred. Did something happen that caused his wife to treat him this way? Was this their normal relationship, but they kept it from everyone for as long as possible? Or is it that at some point in their relationship a trend developed where the fair and equitable treatment each gave to and received from the other ceased? If so, your son should not have tolerated this change. You could have a father and son talk to see if he will divulge why the change occurred. A professional counselor must give any advice beyond this. My dad has a substantial amount of property and assets. He is a widower in love with a woman less than half his age. He is talking marriage. She is talking about a family with him. Am I wrong to feel threatened by her? Yes and no. I am a cynic. I believe that any woman who falls in love with a man old enough to be her father or grandfather is only interested in the wealth that man has. Why? These women never seem to fall in love with poor fathers or grandfathers. Reverse the situation. How many men do you know that have fallen in love with a woman old enough to be their mother or grandmother? I can only think of one example, and I suspect his motives as well. As for this woman, there is no X to consider as your dad is a widower. However, even if there were, this woman will be his current wife. Therefore, she has all the power. She controls the finances. She will possess any and all of his wealth that is not otherwise designated. Any children she bears will have equal, if not greater claim to his wealth than you or your children. If nothing else, unless the matter is solved before he marries her, it will likely mean a battle will be waged at some future point over his assets. Your dad earned his wealth. It is his to do with as he pleases. However, he should first set aside enough to take care of himself, just in case the new wife becomes disinterested or shows her true colors. Next, he should set aside or gift anything he intended to leave you or your children. Once these assets are off the table, what remains would be for the new wife and new family to enjoy. Mind you, if the woman in question disagrees with this approach, it might mean that her intent is less than honorable. If so, you can only hope that your father sees and accepts the truth in time. What if this is not my first marriage? How can the I do philosophy serve me? Somewhere between 40 and 60% of all second marriages end in divorce. Therefore, odds are you will divorce again. Was your first divorce absent of any financial trauma? If so, is your new next spouse as honorable as your first ex-spouse? If he or she is, then you might not require the I do philosophy. Otherwise, it seems reasonable to avoid the financial trauma in a second divorce that you avoided in your first. On the other hand, if you did experience a financially devastating divorce, then wouldn't you make every effort possible not to experience such trauma again? The value of the I do philosophy should be unquestioned to anyone who has already suffered through a traumatic divorce. I dare say that you, and those like you, will sing its praises. What if I win the lottery? Must I give half of it to my spouse or my ex-spouse? Regarding any current spouse, a certain percentage of this windfall must go into the joint account. The rest goes into your personal account where it is free from levy or attachment of any sort. However, the I do philosophy does not limit what you can give. Therefore, If you split the winnings evenly with your spouse, then bless you for your generous gift, which you will of course document. As for an ex-spouse, you are justified in your concern. Tell me true. You've heard the one about the average Joe that hits the lottery for millions of dollars. The ex, often many years divorced, takes the average Joe to court for half of his winnings. If the I do philosophy was adopted during that relationship, then this windfall should be safe. Why? Remember, once divorced, neither has claim or interest into the income of the other unless otherwise accepted. What value is the I do philosophy to women who earn less than men? A great deal of value. There are exceptions. The women earn substantial incomes. They deserve to protect their assets from an unworthy partner. However, accepting your statement at face value, there are other ways that the I do philosophy should protect the interests of the typical woman. That is, the I do philosophy easily corrects the income discrepancy you allude to. Presume you both perform the same job, but as a woman you earn less than your male counterpart. You would each contribute your prorated share to the relationship, but would each earn an equal share of the equity. In essence, you answer a social inequity in your own home in your own way. A woman can further protect herself by adopting the honest and open approach the I do philosophy demands. This will help assure that she is not left in a vulnerable position. That is, she will insist upon certain protections that will assure her well-being should a divorce occur. She can insist that her future husband accepts a contract to that end. A worthy life partner would willingly accept a contract that assures the woman's well-being. If he will not, then she can remove him from her life. Finally, the I do philosophy should protect women from the current system by defining in advance the fruit of their labor in the marriage. That is, a contract duly drafted, an ex-husband might not be able to abandon his responsibility to his former wife and/or family. Moreover, once these financial and material gains are acquired, you can adopt the I do philosophy to protect these assets from any subsequent spouse you might marry. What if I have been happily married for 30 years? With this successful example to follow, why would I care to have my son or daughter adopt the I do philosophy? In increasing numbers, children with failed marriages are becoming burdens to their aging parents. That is, they might turn to their parents to minimize the impact of the failed marriage. At a minimum, children return home to live with their parents. This might be beneficial, but might be traumatic for all concerned as well. Grandchildren often become the responsibility of the grandparents, as the parents of these children are unwilling or unable to care for them. Often, children put pressure on their parents to divide property the parents have acquired to help meet financial obligations that a divorce might have created. Moreover, their ex might consider these assets as fair game and attach them. Anything you can do as a parent to assist your child from avoiding a financially devastating situation must be done. Put another way, if they had passage on the Titanic, would you do everything in your power to keep them on shore? Marriage in this society is a potential Titanic. With a 50% divorce rate staring them in the face, it is only prudent that you assist them in every way. You would also serve to protect yourself from their potentially vindictive ex as well. In the end, your marital possessions would not be at risk. Therefore, these possessions would serve their ultimate purpose, to guarantee your current and future security. What if I'm an attorney? Do I still need the I do philosophy or need to draft its contract? What if you are a doctor? Do you still need to get a tetanus shot? Of course you do. Why? To protect yourself from the disease. As an attorney, male or female, you likely have substantial amounts of income and property to protect from a vindictive future ex. And remember the adage about the attorney who represents him or herself has a fool for a client. My advice to you: seek the advice of a colleague in the drafting of your contract. Sorry, but there isn't any escaping these damn lawyers. What if I want to apply the I do philosophy to other areas? Say, sex. I would expect sex 5 times a week. The honest and open approach of the I do philosophy would certainly demand that you discuss this expectation with your partner. However, is sex 5 times a week something that you believe so strongly that you would include it in a contract? If so, doesn't that destroy the intimacy of the moment? Would you pursue a breach of contract if your spouse only had sex with you twice a week? Make your own decision. Just be certain not to overuse or abuse the intent of the I do philosophy. This might lead to a tedious relationship, or worse, one free of financial woes, but replete with all manner of other bumps on the road. What if our kids, ages 11 and 14, are left a large sum of money by their grandparents? Does the I do philosophy allow us to use it? As stewards of this windfall, it would be expected that you apply the I do philosophy to its use. You have 2 options. First option: consider the money as a gift to them, and as such it is theirs to control. Pretend that it never existed. Place it in trust until they are of legal age. Your second option: remove a given percentage, say 15%, and place it in a joint account where it can be drawn from as they deem fit. The remaining amount would be put into trust until they are of legal age. I own a substantial amount of property. Why bother with the I do philosophy? What if I just hide it? Choosing to hide this property would be less than a wise decision. It would be wiser to exempt it from the marriage prior to the marriage. A worthy life partner will want no part of these premarital assets. They will gladly allow you to exempt this property from the marriage. Remember, anything hidden or undeclared prior to the marriage cannot be properly exempted. At that point, the other person has legal claim to it. The I do philosophy is based on honest and open communication. What if they won't or don't talk about something? While dating, it is not unusual for someone to avoid discussing a past or current emotional or financial mistake. After all, why would you willingly admit to a mistake that might cause the person you are dating to think less of you or leave you? Therefore, while dating, you must insist that honest and open communication be a key expectation in the relationship, not to punish, rather to understand and help solve what might become an obstacle or destructive force in that relationship. If the other person refuses to abide by this expectation, then you have no choice but to part from them. Why? Secrets have no part in a growing, healthy relationship. Keeping a secret from your partner, or refusing to honestly and openly discuss any and all concerns, will eventually lead to feelings of suspicion or anger. The relationship will undoubtedly suffer. Once married, should any partner refuse to honestly and openly discuss an issue, then it is only a matter of time until the relationship ends, especially if the issue demanded discussion before marriage. That is, if you had known about this issue, you might not have married. In short, be firm in your expectation that honest and open communication is the rule in the relationship. Be as patient as possible in allowing the other partner time to discuss the concern. At some point, however, accept that their continued silence marks the end of the relationship, which they will likely refuse to discuss as well. What if I help put him through professional school? Shouldn't I have the right to his future earnings? That depends on what you mean by helping him through professional school. Do you mean you helped by loving him? Did you care for the household or free him from child-rearing duties? Did you tutor him? All of these are very worthy and valuable contributions. Aren't they expected without condition if you are involved in a healthy and growing relationship? Perhaps not. If you expect the help you give to have a financial value, then only you and your partner can decide what financial return your efforts should bring. The I Do philosophy insists that you discuss your expectations, determine the short and long-term value of your intangible contribution, and then document that amount accordingly. As to the tangible contributions, specifically tuition assistance that you might contribute, this must be compensated. You and your partner must determine how much and for how long this compensation will continue. This is the only position to take to protect the investment you made. After all, that money could have been invested elsewhere. A worthy life partner will assure that your belief and investment in them is fair and equitably compensated. Regardless of the tangible and intangible things you contribute, be certain to determine their value before you marry, or if married, before you divorce. This will settle the issue before it becomes fuel for the divorce lawyer's fire. What if we haven't solved our problems before we marry? Whether dating or married, every unsolved problem is a potential bullet that can kill the relationship. You must solve these problems if the relationship is to survive. The I Do philosophy is but one of the many sources you might use to discuss and solve these problems. If the relationship is valued, you must jointly make every effort to discuss and solve these problems. Indeed, turn to and rely on your family, friends, clergy, and if necessary, professional counseling. However, first turn to and rely upon each other. Solving these problems might have its share of hurt involved. Not solving them, however, might prove to result in a longer, deeper hurt. Why? Problems not solved during dating will not be solved during marriage. The consequences of a failed marriage are by far more devastating than those of a failed dating relationship. Therefore, solve these problems before you marry. If you can't solve them, then do not marry. This concludes our discussion on What If. If you learned anything of value, please consider hitting the like and share button. Leave me a comment, especially if you have a question, concern, problem, or issue we might be able to solve together. Or perhaps you can assist me in improving my presentations to you. Finally, if you feel that I am worthy of your time and effort, please consider subscribing, and don't forget to hit the bell icon so you will know when I upload a new installment of the I Do philosophy. Until next time, date wisely, date safely, and remember, I do, if it's equitable.